massive success. And, you know, there are examples of that globally where seemingly negatives can be turned into enormous positives. So that's worth bearing in mind. And focusing on the careers created. And I'm going to talk about Spain more specifically in a minute. But, you know, those are important factors because employment, jobs, careers, very important to government. GDP, costs, for instance, related to illness. But they won't do anything without hardcore facts and figures. So it's important that you use that. Now, these are some of the things that came out of the roundtable discussions, and we had lots of different people there. There's a technology point there first. The lady who is CEO for Amadeus UK and Ireland, Diane Buzabiba. You know, she was looking at it not as a wellness expert, but as someone who, okay, how can technology help you? What can we do? And this kind of plays back to what I was saying earlier, getting wellness tourism classifications right so that technology can power it. As long as we stay fragmented, as long as we stay bundling wellness and medical all together and using ambiguous terms and so on, the harder it is to get classifications so that other industries can help us, can help power us forward. So before we sort of reach out, we've almost got to get our own house in order, if you will. And that's going to take a bit of, you know, a bit of giving, a bit of taking, a bit of, you know, sort of, you know, rallying. But it is going to be important over the next few years that we reach some sort of status quo that everyone can buy into and relate to, so that those other industries can help us. And it leads into the next one. Nations need to track wellness as a trip motivation. You know, the more proof we have, the more qualified example of why people are traveling and taking trips, the better it is. And what I mean by this is, you know, when you're, and it would go back to the Amadeus technology, where you note the purpose of your trip, as an example. It might say business or leisure. You know, we need to get a little more specific about that to understand, you know, why people are traveling, because all those sorts of things help push strategy, monetary investment, spotlight, priority across the line in a political arena, in an investment arena. You know, these are things that count. It doesn't, if I went into a room and started chatting without anything to back me up, you know, and I might say it very nicely and you know, be kind and polite to the group, they're just going to say, forget it, she doesn't know, you know, she hasn't got a clue what she's talking about. There's nothing to prove this, there's no facts, there's no figures. And so it's important that we have as much as possible to support us. Clearly promote the unique wellness resources you have. So a great example that Enrique gave in relation to Spain, when we were talking about authentic and indigenous offerings, which olive oil, wine. He talked about how many Thai spas there were in Spain, and you know, a bit of a head scratcher. You know, he was you know, being humorous about it, but I don't think people come to Spain to have a Thai massage. Your culture, what you do best, the things that are local to you and important to you. And I think that's extremely important too. It's a strong message about your culture and what you believe in within your country. Fix the job and people disconnect. You know, this links into employment, careers and jobs. And we were talking about jobs, and a lady called Helen Morano, who's she's vice president of the WTTC, said, you know, it's all right talking about jobs, but actually it's not just jobs we're talking about, it's careers. It's cultivating careers in wellness, and in somewhere like Spain, you know, the cultivation of those sorts of careers is pretty important right now. to be able to help your country recover. Connecting healthy travel to public health. We were lucky enough to have Dr. Fiona Adshead with us at the round table. She's a medical doctor, but an integrative medical doctor who was a cancer specialist and retrained in public health because she realised that actually she couldn't have a lot of impact in treating cancer patients who were there because of smoking, a lot of lung cancer and so on. She thought, this is just crazy. I really want to help. Best thing I can do is retrain in public health, move into the public sector and actually affect the policies that exist around smoking. That's exactly what she did. She worked with the British government and the World Health Organization and was part of the decision to ban smoking in public places in the UK. And it was a clever strategy in as much as they all knew it was going to happen, but the marketing, the messaging prior to the event, actually 25th of June, okay, no smoking in public places, was about convincing the public that this was a really good idea, and that's exactly what happened. By the time the D-Day came, no smoking, that's what everybody wanted. But it came down to money. What won that argument was about not crafting, but pointing out to businesses, particularly private sector businesses, that actually they were going to get more money from having people eat in a smoke-free environment than having people drink and having a cigarette at the same time. And so that was a big, big win. One of the things that came up within the context of that discussion was, well, can't we do something similar for wellness? Can't we be a little more insistent, that people take better care of themselves? Well, that's a whole different discussion, but it's an interesting one. It's a young industry. There is fragmentation, there is a need to collaborate, and this is really just the beginning of that conversation and debate, discussion. So, why could this matter to Spain? Now, next year, later this year? Now, I know that the first quarter of this year, I think, was the strongest economic growth. I can't remember how much. I think it might have been 0.6%. Strongest economic growth for, I think, something like 6 years. So, fantastic. As we've seen, the wellness tourism travellers are very, very high yield tourists. You want them. You absolutely want them here. Creation of jobs and careers. Now, it seems to me, I'm no politician, but that's quite a priority here. Almost 26% unemployed, much, much higher than that in some regions. I think Andalusia might be 37%, Susan, something like that. And Andalusia is a perfect example of how where wellness tourism could be brought in. And so this also speaks to the creation of jobs and careers and having it anchored in wellness tourism. It is a seasonality fighter. Now, I don't know the drop-off during your winter. I mean, I know that you'll have more tourists, from now through till September, October. The drop-off would be more significant in other countries, but it's still important to bear that in mind in terms of how you bring that in. Shah is another good example. It's taken them, quite a long time to have the success that they now have, but that is not untypical of a destination resort anywhere in the world. Chiva Som's a good example. I think it took them around 12 years actually to be doing very, very well from a business perspective at what they do. And I think Shah has been quicker than that, but still it takes some time, some dedication and some belief in what's happening. Now, I was looking at the strategy, the Spanish economic strategy last week, and strengthening the tourism sector. I mean, I know I've pulled this completely out of context. I think it's on page 60 if anybody wants to look it up. Strengthening the tourism sector is a policy identified under political reform from the 2012 strategy. there were lots in there, and I didn't want to bamboozle you with, you know, the Spanish, you know, strategic document, but there are lots of things, lots of highlights in that the wellness tourism industry can get behind, really important ones, and in many ways I feel like some of us have to start there in terms of what the government's spotlight is and how we can dovetail into that for the good and the benefit of all of us. Headline takeaways, I'm almost there. Stay local, original and authentic. It's not the best idea to, you know, bring in non-authentic offerings when I think, you know, people want to come to your country and experience who you are. Be clear with messaging and positioning. Do not confuse, here it is again, do not confuse medical and wellness tourism to your peril. Confuse it if you want to, but it may be to your peril. The industry is a job and career creator, and that's great news for you, really, really great news. Wellness tourism provides very high yield tourists, and the consumer and government traction is already strong. Okay, it takes a lot of time and energy, and as you probably know by now, one of my clients is the Global Wellness Tourism Congress. I'm here representing them, and you know, we're building those relationships with governments. We have we'll be inaugurated as an affiliate for the UN WTO in June, of course here in Galicia, I think, and we have strong relations with the WTTC, and if you will, you know, we're sort of practicing what we preach. That collaboration is important. You know, that joining together of tourism and of wellness is an important part so that we can all move forward together. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.